There we go. Good morning, world.
Good morning, Michelle. How are you today?
I am enjoying a beautiful sunny day right by the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, California. And I would like to invite all of our friends in the Facebook world and anyone who might have an opportunity to see this interview later to welcome you to Liner Notes, Michelle Hoffmann's Liner Notes. Liner notes are the insight that artists or curators offer into what's really going on at the time of creating this artwork and what inspired that recording or masterpiece to be what it truly is. Michelle Hoffmann's Liner Notes is imperative insight and curated wisdom that you need to inspire you to unblock your potential. In a changing world, you can find your unique path to create balance and enjoy an abundant life with all the resources you need. I'm Michelle Hoffmann. I help new and seasoned managers develop high-performing teams to achieve personal and professional revenue goals. Discover how I can help you and your company succeed at lightthesparklady@gmail.com. Today, I'm so excited to share with you Kathie Hardy. Kathie is a full-time hypnotherapist. She left an amazing career, a 40-year career nursing, after realizing how effective hypnosis was for helping people change habits and behaviors and manage pain, both emotional and physical pain. She's particularly enjoyed helping people quit smoking since this whole shelter in place situation has come up in the world. And one of the silver linings of sheltering in place is that now she can actually help you remotely. And it's amazing how successful hypnosis is over virtual connections, and that you can access the help you need wherever you are. One of the big things that Kathie does is help people managing emotional overwhelm. And gosh, there's a lot of that these days. Kathie, welcome. Tell us a little bit about who are your clients and how do you help them, or a little story about you.
All right. Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm so pleased to be included in your program. And I think Liner Notes is just an amazing, wonderful idea. So I have noticed in my practice that no matter what somebody comes to me for, there's always a secondary problem, and that is emotional overwhelm. Nearly everybody has some form of emotional overwhelm going on in their life. And for some people, it's just debilitating. And I just might comment that you can look around you in the world and you see people that are put together, that look like they're doing fine, that by anybody's assessment would be very successful. And some of those people are just a mess inside. They really don't feel good. This might be you. They don't feel like they can quite keep up. They don't feel like they can cope. They feel like they can't even relax at night. They feel like the weight of the world is on their shoulders. And then every day the news is worse. A lot of people are feeling this way. So if you are experiencing this in your life, you are not alone. You are not alone. And there's a reason that it's happening to you, and it's not your fault. So one of the things I have really appreciated about this is that the opportunity to do hypnotherapy with so many people has given me insight into the fact that emotional overwhelm is just a pervasive problem in our society. And on top of that, this virus has just thrown us all on our ears. Nobody's life is the same. Even if you have a very stable financial situation and either you don't need to work or you can work easily from home, even if everyone in your family is, thriving, even if you normally do activities that you can do in a solitary manner so you don't mind or notice the lack of social interaction, even if all of those things are in place, you are still suffering. You are still being overwhelmed by this. So And I'm going to talk in a few minutes about how much how clearly I want to make the case to you that it's not your fault. You have an adrenaline life-saving mechanism built into your brain that you do not have complete control over. And that adrenaline response is responsible for how you sometimes feel completely overwhelmed. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Wow, that is significant, Kathie. It's really so it's so relevant, especially right now. I mean, it's always been relevant, but especially right now. Everyone has a story. Everyone's facing challenges in their everyday life, be that personal, whether they're professional. I help managers address all of those things to clear the blocks, to get them out of the way, so that not only they can do the work that they can create, but also so that they can help support their teams. And all of those things that you're saying are so relevant, both professionally and personally, so that we can be the best version of ourselves and have this abundant, robust life and really hunker down and enjoy what we're doing. But with everything that's been happening in the world, it's a reminder that we may have been feeling overwhelmed before, and now there's a whole new level of constraints put upon us, and we're working remotely, we may be feeling confined physically in our homes, in our bodies, and we really need the tools to move forward into this new reality that we have. Not necessarily reality that we want, but it's a reality that we are in. So you were talking about the emotional overwhelm and people who may have the facade of looking like we've got it all together and we've got it going on, and we always think other people have it all going on. But in reality, we are all working so hard to manage the overwhelm. So what are some of the things that you do to help your clients adjust to the new reality that we're in and manage the overwhelm that we're facing, which is like multiplied exponentially based on how we are now working from our homes, where we don't have the breaks from navigating relationships with our spouses, with our loved ones, with our children, even with our loving pets. They're really, everything's more demanding. So what are some of the things that you do to help your clients manage this and navigate the overwhelm?
Well, the number one thing I do is I make sure everybody knows that they are not alone, that no matter how put together people around them appear inside, everyone is struggling with this to one degree or another. And on top of that, we are all in the same boat as far as facing the uncertainty. We don't know if this is going to get a lot worse or if it's on its way to getting better. But no matter what, it's happening all over the world. We're all in this together. And I have a set of steps that I like to call emotional first aid, and I'll tell you about those and maybe take you through them briefly over a period of about 5 or 6 minutes, because it only actually takes a few minutes to get yourself to a place where you can feel more relaxed. That adrenaline in your brain is causing some very specific things to happen. And I'd like to tell your listeners, Michelle, that prior to becoming a hypnotist, I was a registered nurse, and I had a lot of degrees. I did much of my career in nursing administration at the director level, but I really loved emergency department nursing, and I really loved intensive care unit nursing. And so probably 5 years ago, a man I was dating took me to a party. And it was a party for his great aunt Carmen, who was going to turn 92. And at the party, I met a hypnotist from Colorado. And she hypnotized all the children at the party. And she hypnotized my boyfriend just standing up there. And I was just amazed. I'm like, how can she do that? And she told me that people can be helped to quit smoking in as little as 1 to 2 sessions. Now, at the time, I was amazed. I didn't know this. Apparently, a lot of people do know that hypnosis is good for smoking. I've since learned. But at the time, I didn't know that. And most of the adults in my family had died of smoking-related illnesses. So on the way home, I thought about this. And I looked it up online, and it's like, wow, hypnosis is good for a number of different things, all because many of these problems have at their root subconscious pressures, like mistaken beliefs about oneself or limiting beliefs about oneself, or there's a lot of different things that go on subconsciously. And anytime you are trying to make a change in your life and you are not able to, for example, losing weight, and you're not able to, that's because there's some subconscious reasons why you are not able to do that. Because we're all smart. We've got a frontal lobe that has critical reasoning capability. But if there's a change you want to make, and despite your efforts, you can't make it, that's a sign that hypnosis will help you. But
Wow.
anyway, about 2 weeks after the party, I was standing in the doorway of room 2 in the intensive care unit where I was working. And I was taking care of a young woman who was detoxing from alcohol. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but you don't usually die from detoxing from heroin or from meth, but you can die from detoxing from alcohol. And that's why if you end up in the ER, however you end up there, with a blood alcohol level, up by the ceiling, you're going to buy yourself 2 or 3 days in the ICU. So in the ICU, it's one-on-one nursing care, and there's things I have to do every 15 minutes. There's a lot of things to do to support somebody through alcohol detox at the medical level in an ICU. And so I remember it was a Tuesday afternoon, and it was 3 o'clock, because I stood there in the doorway and I looked at her, and her younger daughters, her high school age daughters, had been in that morning before school. And she was unconscious, and she was swollen. Her belly was swollen with ascites, which is liver damage from alcohol abuse over a long period of time. And her skin was yellow. And they kissed her and acted like nothing was wrong, because they'd seen her like that so many times before. And it broke my heart. And then as I looked around the room, and I'm like, wow, there's just so much money going into this. And it's kind of like, taxpayers are paying for this, and it's not helping. As I watched her, she got out of bed. She walked down the hallway. She got dressed. She walked down the hallway. And I wanted to stop her. I wanted to say, please get back in bed. Let's finish the detox. But she has a right to leave. We don't hold people against their will. And this was something that had happened many times before. We all knew her, and she was headed across the street from the hospital to buy a beer and start the cycle all over again. And I stood there looking at the room, all that money and all that time, and I was tired. I hadn't had a break for lunch that day because I knew the other nurses had heavy loads, and I didn't believe they'd be able to watch her closely enough so that she would be safe. But there she was walking down the hallway. I didn't even know if she was going to get down the hallway without falling. But then I thought, I'm in a place in my life where I can go anywhere on the planet and pay whatever I have to pay, and I can learn to be the best hypnotist that I am capable of being, and I can help people, because she doesn't want help now, but there was a time in her life, undoubtedly, when she looked around at her little girls and thought, I've got a problem and I need to quit. She's probably tried to quit many times and just wasn't successful. And I thought, what if I could have helped, what if my parents didn't have to die of smoking? What if my grandmother didn't have to die suffering for years ahead of time?
Right.
And so I went home, and I enrolled in a couple different programs over the next few years, and I bought plane tickets, and I went all over this country learning from the best hypnotists that I could. Learned a lot about brain science, a lot of interesting things. So I use a combination of new findings in brain science and time-tested hypnotic techniques, and they work. So I have to say, I've kind of had a renaissance in my life, and I love the work I do. But I would like to go back to this idea of emotional overwhelm, and tell people that, we are hardwired for an adrenaline response. And when you feel completely overwhelmed, even to the point where you feel shaky, your heart is pounding, maybe you're having trouble breathing, you might experience a momentary time when you can't remember or think very clearly. The most perfect example of this, for people to understand what adrenaline overdrive and overwhelm feels like is like right after a car accident. If you've ever had a car accident, after the car accident, you feel like your heart is pounding, it's hard to breathe, you're shaky, and you might have trouble remembering your phone number. That's happened to me. So inside your brain, you've got three parts to your mind: your conscious thinking mind, your subconscious mind, where all your memories and emotions are stored, and your unconscious mind that keeps your body running, decides how many red blood cells to make, how many white blood cells to make today in response to how much bacteria or virus you've been exposed to, that decides how many times you should blink and how fast your hair should grow. All these things are taken care of by your unconscious mind. And a long time ago, say, let's just throw ourselves back for a moment into a caveman, cavewoman situation when two girls were foraging in the forest for berries and nuts. And one of them was just having a wonderful day, enjoying the sensual beauty of the rose hips and the sunlight. And her sister was irritable, jumping around, looking in the bushes, you know, upset about every twig snapping. And a tiger appeared, and the two girls ran. And guess which one was the tiger's dinner? Not the one that was looking for problems and watching the bushes, the one that was just enjoying the day.
Wow.
The girl that was watching the bushes, alert for danger, jumpy and irritable, on edge, she's the one that ran faster. She saw the tiger a split second earlier and she ran. She is your great-great-grandmother many times removed. And variations of this scenario played out generationally. And the people that were looking for problems are the ones that survived. So guess what? You are hardwired to look for problems.
Right.
You are hardwired to react to problems because your unconscious mind, that brainstem part of your brain, they sometimes call that the reptilian brain, that part of your brain is responsible for keeping you alive. And it's done a very good job. And you may have examples in your own life of times when you felt like you almost died, and maybe you got out of the way just in the right time, you jumped back, you didn't get run over, whatever. So this is a very important part of your brain. That adrenaline causes fight, flight, or freeze. You've heard of that, the fight or flight syndrome. It's also fight, flight, or freeze. And that makes your brain, that adrenaline production in your body, it's your adrenal glands sit right on top of your kidneys. And you might even feel like a physical surge from that part of your body if you've ever experienced a very sudden, terrifying event where you had a big emotional response, a big adrenaline response. But that adrenaline surges through your body and it causes these problems. Now, they're not problems in the moment if they help you run away from the tiger or avoid getting hit by a subway train,
Right.
but they are a problem in daily life because it doesn't break down in your body immediately. That adrenaline is there for a reason. It's there to help you run, help you hide, help you fight, and it lasts in your blood a while and it causes problems. Now, in the moment, like I said, really, really good. So what does adrenaline do? It increases your heart rate. It increases your blood pressure because you may not know this, but you've got smooth muscle inside your blood vessels, and you do not have conscious control over this, but those muscles constrict, and they cause what we call systemic vascular resistance. That increases your blood pressure, the combination of increased heart rate and the systemic vascular resistance. You don't have conscious control over that. Your breathing increases. You will also have, and this is very important, you will have a shunting of blood from non-essential areas to your large muscles so you can run. This shunting of blood includes shunting blood away from your prefrontal cortex, your critical thinking skills. When you are in an adrenaline overload position in your life, you do not have the ability to make clear decisions. You just cannot physiologically do it. And you don't, and also blood is shunted from your gut. So people, because that's not essential in the moment. So long-term effects of adrenaline include like stomach problems. You're not going to digest your food very well if the blood is shunted away from that into your large muscles so you can run. You are also going to be at risk for strokes and heart attacks, because anytime blood is being shoved through your blood vessels at a high rate, it's more likely to break off the plaque on the inside of your blood vessels and occlude or close off the little downstream blood vessels, and that causes stroke and heart attack. So these things are a result of long-term overproduction of adrenaline. The other thing is weight gain, and that's a whole nother conversation, but frequent overproduction of adrenaline causes weight gain. Now, when I say overproduction of adrenaline, I want to make a distinction here. That adrenaline is there for fight, flight, or freeze, but here's the deal. When was the last time you got chased by a tiger? When was the last time you had to hunt an antelope to feed your children? We don't have those kinds of fight or those kinds of life-threatening emergencies anymore. And yet, your brain is hardwired to respond to them. So what's happening? What's happening is the way we think about things, your beliefs. You're feeling like, wow, I can't work because of COVID, so my job is threatened, my ability to provide for my family is diminished, and maybe I won't be able to, or maybe somebody I love is going to die. So those are all thoughts that lead to adrenaline production. So I went over some of the main things that adrenaline causes, events and processes that adrenaline causes in your body. You don't have conscious control over most of those. You do not have conscious control over your heart rate or over the systemic vascular resistance on the inside of your arteries and veins. You do not have control, unfortunately, over the shunting of blood from your frontal lobe and your gut. But there are 4 specific things that you share control with, that you have some control with, and I'm going to share these with you right now. I think we have time. Great.
Is this the
emotional first aid
kit?
This is the emotional first aid kit, and I'm teaching all of my clients this, and I've actually got a program on it, online program as well. This is very, very important. So
when you're going to share this with us,
I'm going to share it with you.
What you've done is you've set the stage so nicely to demonstrate that we're now in our present day dealing with, I guess, archaic physical responses that we actually don't have control over, but they're going to happen anyway. And we need to figure out how to work with the systems that we have internally as well as externally. And if we don't find the balance between the internal and external systems, particularly in the cases where we have stress, which becomes chronic stress, which then could result in risky and dangerous behaviors such as smoking to the point of causing life-threatening situations, weight gain. You talked about some other situations, but any of these chronic stress scenarios can put us in a situation that is literally life-risking. And Kathie has mentioned that she's going to share with us her toolkit, her first aid kit, Overwhelm First Aid Kit. And if you've gotten this far into the webinar, we're also going to offer our books to you just by connecting with us after this webinar. So share with us that even though the adrenaline overwhelm may take over, and despite our best efforts, there are some things that we can do to balance out these systems and move forward. So give us what you got.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing this.
You're welcome. And thank you for bringing up another point. Along with emotional overwhelm that happens from the adrenaline, that feeling of I can't keep up, or it's just too much, or I feel stressed out, I'm not sleeping very well. Other things that can happen are that we can overindulge in what I call distracting behaviors. And they are just that. So too much eating, overeating and over snacking. Lots of people are telling me that they're doing that as a response to COVID. And overeating is something that's easy to do because we have to eat several times a day anyway, but eating too much or eating foods that are too high in sugar or fat, guess what? That's part of the adrenaline response. If your brain thinks you're going to have to run from tigers because you're so stressed out, then it's going to scream at you for sugar and fat. And believe me, when I was an emergency room nurse, I ate my share of handfuls of peanut M&Ms. We kept them in big bags from Costco in the drawers underneath the nurse's station. We all ate them. We were all like fired up on adrenaline the whole time. That's a job for adrenaline junkies. But anyway, the other things you might find yourself doing to distract yourself from your discomfort is drinking more. Alcohol consumption is up dramatically since COVID started.
Right.
If you are a smoker, you may very well find yourself smoking more. And we all know that that's not good for you, particularly now, it's really dangerous. And you might find yourself maybe getting obsessive about something like exercise videos or working too much or maybe online gambling. There's all kinds of things that people do to distract themselves from the way they feel. So I'd like to share with you a first aid kit for emotional overwhelm. And these are 4 ways that you can intentionally and manually turn down that adrenaline spigot in your body. You can turn it right down. And the first thing is your body, because why? Adrenaline also causes body tension, because if you are about to run from a tiger or you have to catch an antelope to feed your children, your body is not going to be loose and relaxed. No, it's going to be tight, coiled, ready to spring, ready to run. So the first thing that you should do when you think about emotional first aid, I'm going to go over body, breathing, eyes, and beliefs. So there's 3 B's and your eyes thrown in there. So the first thing is your body. So just very intentionally shaking yourself out, just like getting yourself into a posture of relaxation. And if you can, sometimes a tension release thing works really well. If you can just like jump up and down for a minute or squeeze your muscles tight and then relax them, squeeze them tight and then relax them, just loosening up your body. So body posture, very important. That in itself turns back the adrenaline, because you are telling your brain, oh, we don't have to get ready to run. We can just kind of like sprawl out here. We can just like really relax. The next thing is your breathing. And I used to really be irritated in yoga classes when they wanted us to do this breathing to start with, the slow, deep breathing. I'm like, what's that about? I already know how to breathe. Breathing slowly and deeply can calm your brain down in just a few seconds. And as a matter of fact, if you want to think about something that's been bothering you lately and rate it right now on a scale of 1 to 10, just notice where you are when you think about that one thing. And maybe it's your employment and financial status. Maybe it's the health of people you love. Maybe it's that you're going stir crazy in your house. Maybe it's that all your summer plans are disrupted. Maybe it's that you just fear for the world. Whatever it is, think about that and rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, because I think you'll find at the end of this emotional first aid exercise that you will be feeling better. So go ahead and rate yourself. And now let's just try taking a few deep breaths. And if you will just play along with me, I'm going to take you in a direction that's going to leave you feeling more relaxed.
Okay, let's
go. Take a few nice deep breaths, exhaling out stress, anxiety, and tension. Another big deep breath. Exhaling out stress, anxiety, and tension again. People breathe 12 to 20 times a minute. So even with, say, 5 slow, deep breaths, that takes 15 or 20 seconds of your life, less than a minute. Just do that now. Sometimes with adrenaline overload, people can feel kind of constricted in their chest, like they can't take another breath. And then their voice sounds funny when they talk. When you're really upset, you may have noticed that. And the counteract the counteracting activity for that is to just breathe out completely and then wait until your body tells you it needs another breath. When you gulp oxygen, then your oxygen saturation in your blood gets higher and your brain says, we don't need another breath yet because the carbon dioxide hasn't built up. The oxygen is still high. So it makes it very hard for you to take a breath when your body says you don't need one, when you've kind of amped yourself up on oxygen. So the tighter you feel, the longer your exhale should be. So just try that now. Exhale out completely. And inhaling out and exhaling out completely. All right, now I'd like you to find a spot on the wall. It could be slightly higher than your eyes or even a spot up on the ceiling. And look at that spot. This is a spot that's about the size of an eraser on a pencil. And keep your eyes right on that spot. Because we talked about the other thing is with adrenaline, your eyes are focused. You are looking in the bushes for that tiger, or you are looking for movements in the bushes for that antelope that you're going to catch for your children to eat for dinner. So eye gaze is something that automatically happens with adrenaline. And right now, we're going to let that relax. So find that spot on the wall and just notice everything there is to find about that spot. Is it what's the shape of it? Is it bumpy? If you could reach out and touch it with your finger, would it be smooth or hard, warm or cool? Just notice everything there is to notice about that spot. Take another deep breath, exhaling out stress, anxiety, and tension. And now, with your eyes still on that spot, allow your peripheral vision to engage. Expand your awareness to everything around that spot to a distance of 3 feet in every direction. And now with your eyes right on that spot, just notice everything within 3 feet in every direction. Take another deep breath, exhaling out stress, anxiety, and tension. And now with your eyes on that spot, allow your awareness to expand to the walls of the room, to the ceiling, to your knowledge of where the floor is. Take another deep breath, exhaling out stress, anxiety, and tension. Good. And now with your eyes still on that spot, expand your awareness to the space beyond the walls, above the ceiling, and below the floor. And when you're ready, close your eyes if you'd like, and just enjoy the feeling of that darkness behind your eyes, that comfortable place. And the fourth way that we can turn down the adrenaline in our bodies is by our beliefs or the stories we tell ourselves about what's happening. And I'd like you to think about this, that every emotion that you've ever felt in your body and your mind, even if you've only felt that emotion one time, it's kind of like there's a neural pathway in your brain. And a neural pathway is just a kind of a path from one nerve cell to the other in your brain. So even if you've only experienced an emotion one time, the pathway is there. And you might think about these as kind of like paths in a forest. And the paths that are more heavily trodden, or that people or deer or animals use more frequently, the paths that are walked down frequently are the ones that are wide. Those are the ones that are well worn, easy to follow. It's easier to follow those paths in the forest. And sometimes those paths get so well used, they even become ruts. And sometimes if the ruts are really big, it becomes hard for us to get out of them. So I'm just suggesting to you that all the different feelings you have in your life, all the emotions, some of them get used more frequently than others. And you might just know right now, sitting here listening, that there are some emotional responses in your daily life that are very common and some that are less common. And so if you'll play along with me now and just consider this, that those emotions in your brain could be akin to children in a classroom. And say there are 56 or 60 different children in this classroom. And all these different children are like different emotions. And for example, there's the child that just reacts to everything, makes a lot of noise, knocks things over, is always getting into trouble. There's a quiet child in the back that's just afraid of everything, just curled up in a ball, doesn't want to participate, just wants to be left alone. There's that fun-loving, silly child that just never wants to do her homework and just wants to play and laugh and giggle and enjoy her life. There's the sad child that's maybe remembering problems at home and doesn't have the ability to set those concerns aside and do something else for a while. And then there's the child that's resourceful and very creative. And she remembers other times in her life when she did very difficult things and figured out a way through them. And there's a child that is very good at getting together with other people and making other people feel good and getting support from other people. And the important thing about this special classroom is that only one of those children can be in front of the classroom at a given time, just one. And only one of them can speak from your mouth. The story you tell yourself about what's happening is very important. Your subconscious mind will believe what you tell it. So if all you do is talk about the terrible parts of what's happening, the worst case scenarios, you are just encouraging those children in your mental classroom to be at the front of your life, and you're letting them talk out of your mouth. We have a measure of control over what we say and what we think. And now is a very good time in these difficult times to start developing habits of positive thought. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. But the most important thing is you do have conscious control over 4 parts of the adrenaline response. You can consciously control your body posture. You can consciously control your breathing. In just 15 or 20 seconds, you can slow your breathing down. You can also relax your gaze. Sometimes when I find myself tense, say in the grocery store, I'm waiting in line and now everything takes longer because they have to clean in between. I feel irritable that I need to wait longer. This is a very minor example. I'll use the curl in the hair of the woman in front of me in line, and I'll just do that peripheral vision for a minute. I'll focus on the curve of the curl of her hair. And I'll just let myself progressively expand my awareness and my vision until I see the whole store. And by doing that, really what you're doing is you're engaging in a mindfulness activity, something to bring you right here in this very moment, looking at something with a lot of focus and concentration. And you're not thinking about the news. You're not thinking about how upset family members are. And so the 4th part is the beliefs you hold in your mind or the stories you're telling yourself. And the other thing I would like to suggest to people is that this mindfulness concept, and we've all heard it, it's a big part of yoga, it's a big part of many different philosophies, but that being in the moment and trying not to be constantly reliving the past and constantly worrying about the future, even if you can just let yourself do that for a few minutes every day, just like get lost in the weeding in your garden, or get lost in the cooking, or doing something that you enjoy. Being around children is very helpful for this because they live in the moment. But doing that gives your brain a break from the fear and the anxiety. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that's something that you can use. It's breathing, or body, breathing, eye gaze, and beliefs. And you might think about this if I give you a visual. The 2 girls are in the forest and the tiger is just about to spring. They are tense. And when he springs, it's the floodgates of adrenaline are open. But later that evening, they're safe. Somebody killed the tiger, say in this story, and they are all laying around the fire with full stomachs. Their bodies are relaxed and open. Their breathing is slow and comfortable. They're staring into the fire, not seeing anything. Perfect example of peripheral vision engaged. And they are feeling safe and comfortable, warm and loved. So that's what I'd like to leave you with. And if you now pay attention to how you feel on that 1 to 10 scale. You may find that just going through this and hearing these thoughts has brought you down. And even if it only brought you down 1 point on that scale, that's a 10% improvement. And so if you did the whole thing again, you'd probably get at least 20%.
Brilliant. Kathie, your ability to share your experience, your education, bringing science made simple based on anatomy, physiognomy, the neuroscience that goes into what we can control and what we can't control in our lives, really is very approachable, and it's really easy to understand based on the stories that you share with us. So thank you for making something that is out of control in our world right now, um, by giving us a way to control it. And with your emotional first aid kit, with the 4 steps of paying attention to our bodies and our breathing, as well as our eye gaze. I loved the eye gaze exercise in particular because sometimes we get so focused on something that we get myopic and we forget the whole world that is around us. And by taking a moment when we're so overwhelmed and stressed out to take on simple exercises of being posture aware, being breath aware, so we're not overflooded with oxygen or carbon dioxide, becoming aware of the world that's around us and that where we fit in it, and that our belief systems actually determine how we live in the world. And it gives us some control in an out of control situation. It's such a gift that you share with all of us. You had mentioned briefly earlier, when would be the time that we would become aware that it's appropriate for us to reach out? And you had given us an example earlier in this about a woman who probably had a moment where she could have reached out to somebody like you for help, and she could then have increased her life experience, her life expanse, her relationship with her children, and also the impact on other people, the hospital, the staff, the money, the taxes, I mean, everything. If she had known that she could get help in this situation and knowing who to go to, that would have changed many people's lives for the better. So will you take a moment and share with us what kinds of things would be a trigger for us in our everyday overwhelmed life to act upon that and say, you know what, I could probably do this on my own, but getting a coach or a guide or somebody to help me with this will expedite the process and have an increased opportunity for success. So share that with us, and also will you speak to how we can get in touch with you when we become aware of that?
Sure. Okay. Very good. Very good questions, Michelle. Thank you. I've lived long enough. You know, I was a nurse for 40 years before I became a hypnotherapist. And I've lived long enough that I've had a lot of personal experience with feeling overwhelmed. And I started my life out in a very difficult way as a single mother, very young. And I've had a lot of very challenging life circumstances. So I have intimate knowledge with feeling emotionally overwhelmed. But I would like to suggest that a lot of times when we feel that overwhelm creeping up, that feeling like, oh my goodness, it's just like more than I can deal with. I just need to escape. I want to take pills or something, but I don't want to take pills. And that feeling, if you just notice what it is for you that's the trigger. You know, is it just a thought about safety? Is it a thought about loneliness? What's the feeling that you're experiencing when that happens? And then if there's something specific you can do about that, then focusing right on that. I have a whole section in my program, and I think it's almost a whole chapter in each of my books on the secret language of feelings and how your feelings are very useful. They're very valuable for you, even the bad feelings, because they're like indicator lights on a car dashboard. They tell you something needs attention. But when you feel like you are not able to satisfy that feeling and it keeps popping up, especially if it's accompanied by emotional overwhelm, then it's really important for you to get help, because the last thing you want to do is start engaging in these distracting behaviors that are hurtful to you, like what we call the too much behaviors: too much eating, too much drinking, too much smoking, too much over exercising, overworking to the point where your family doesn't see you, gambling or anything like that. If you are feeling like you're getting caught in that web, you can get help. It's these things, some of them are very easy to resolve with hypnosis.
And you were saying that you learned that people could actually stop smoking in as little as 2 sessions. So how can we get in touch with you? And I will also share my book information, and that way people can access us immediately.
Sure. Okay. Well, my most recent book is Quit Smoking for Good with Hypnosis Without Gaining Weight, because a lot of people are afraid to quit smoking because they are afraid they're going to gain weight. They may know someone that gained 20 pounds, and my clients don't gain weight when they quit smoking. And I feel so confident in my ability to help people quit smoking. I feel kind of like it's a superpower that I offer a lifetime guarantee. My first book was Migraine Pain Relief with Hypnosis, because I suffered from migraine headaches terribly for 46 years. And I was, I don't know, cured is kind of a weird word to use for migraines, but I don't get migraine headaches anymore, very rarely. And that is because of hypnosis. I went through hypnosis as a client before I became a hypnotherapist. And then my program is Managing Emotional Overwhelm. So if your readers or your watchers want to send me an email, and they can just say liner notes in the subject, or Michelle, or free book in the subject, just tell me which one they'd want, if they'd like one on migraines or one on smoking, or if they want to look at my program, Managing Emotional Overwhelm. I'd be happy to share that as a gift to people who are watching today.
Thank you. And your email address to get a hold of Kathie Hardy is info@salishhypnosis.com. info at salishhypnosis.com. So if you would like to get a free copy of Kathie's book, or you are ready to make a change in your life right now, you can go and email Kathie at info@salishhypnosis.com and put liner notes in the subject line so she knows that you got connected through us, and she will be able to put you as a high priority. And if you are interested in getting a copy of the new management blueprint, Spark Talent to Ignite Winning Teams and Create Valuable Results, I'm happy to share a copy with you so that you, as a business owner or CEO, can manage the overwhelm and focus on your zone of genius by inviting me into your organization to support your managers so they can develop high-performing teams to meet all of your revenue and professional goals, and also relieve all the tension from your personal goals. Just go to lightthesparklady@gmail.com. lightthesparklady@gmail.com. So you can get access to me immediately at lightthespark@gmail.com. Michelle Hoffmann and Kathie Hardy, thank you so much for sharing your depth of knowledge, experience, and your superpowers to really help other people gain balance and focus and live a happier, healthier life. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.